Hello, everybody, and welcome to Midlife Reinvention. And it's also called People with Passion because we are both here with us today. I'm Karen Putz, and with me today is Krysty. And we met because we are both parents of deaf and hard of hearing children. That's how our paths originally crossed. And we're both writers, and now we're both coaches. So I said to Krysty, really jump on here and share stories here. So Krysty, welcome. And I'm so curious about your journey, all the twists and turns that led you to where you are today. So tell us about that.
Where would you like me to start?
You were born.
Yeah, I could go. I'm 53, so there's a lot of story to tell.
So tell us your journey.
My journey, it's twisty-turny for sure, but I think that a lot of that has just been a willingness to keep growing and to keep pushing myself. And I think a lot of it was just, my journey really was just about me trying to find myself. I never really felt like I belonged for a long time. I wasn't, and it's hard to find that sometimes when you're married and when you're raising children. I think women especially sometimes just lose themselves. So I definitely did that in my marriage, and my marriage fell apart 5 years ago. And that was really when my journey just accelerated because I realized I had lost myself. And then shortly after I got divorced, I got sober. And that accelerated my growth and passion and figuring out who I was and what I wanted to be when I grew up and all those things. So I think that it's been just a series of challenges, but then bouncing back from those challenges. I think that's been a big part of my story as well.
I think that makes people better coaches because
Yes.
The coaches who have been through or hit the rock bottom and come up can relate and help people faster and quicker because of that roller coaster journey.
Yeah.
If I look back at all the different coaches that I've had, the ones who have been willing to rip their heart open and tell me how they put it back together again, those have been the most valuable coaches for me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's a typical day like for you?
There is no typical day, but I do one thing I do, and especially since I've gotten sober, is I have just some really strong supports in place to support me mentally, physically, emotionally, sort of like all those pillars that help me to get through my day, sort of whatever gets thrown at me. But I wake up early. I've always been an early riser. I get up about 5 or 5:30. I have coffee and I sit in a chair. I have a special chair by my window. I sit in my chair. I read, I write, I meditate. I do some sort of physical activity. And then once I sort of get all my brain settled down, my body settled down, then I'm ready to work. And a lot of that is so necessary, especially when I got sober, because when you're drinking, you're covering up. You're not processing, you're numbing yourself. And it doesn't have to be alcohol you're doing that with. People do that with their phone. They're numbing out with their phone. It's not only alcohol that you numb out with, but so processing those feelings and emotions and all the things became so important once I got sober. So that the typical day has to absolutely have those things: reading, writing, meditating, and movement, or else I feel like I'm all over the place and I can't settle down. So
that's what I call it. I'm in a morning, and I actually teach that in my coaching. And it's those things that you just talked about, started with the meditation, the musing, meaningful, and the movement.
I love that.
I'm in a morning.
I love that. Yeah.
It's so important. Because I know that when I slip out of that, I'm in my bed and I'm scrolling.
Yeah.
I try to convince myself that I'm working from my bed. Okay, yeah, right. Things we tell ourselves.
Right.
So this journey, you were a freelance writer for a while, and before that, you worked as a teacher and then you worked in Sesame Education. You started explaining that. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, so I've always been, I mean, even way back in high school, I was a coach. I coached hockey and ringette, which is a sport in Canada. So I've always had that coaching, teaching in me my entire life. So yeah, my first, real job when I graduated from college was as a teacher. I taught in Calgary, Canada, which is where I'm from. And then I taught in New York City for, 14 years. And, then I moved I got my doctorate because I really wanted to sort of transition away from teaching into maybe more research, more, building programs and systems. And by the time when I started my doctorate, I was pregnant with my first child. When I finished my doctorate 7 years later, I had 2 children, and priorities had shifted because I, at one time thought I would go into post-socialist countries or the Middle East and help them rebuild their education systems. And then, when I had 2 children, I was like, yeah, that's, my priorities have shifted a bit. So that is when I worked at Sesame Workshop for a while and helped them sort of build and design curriculum programs. And again, that just sort of took away. I was getting home 8, 9 o'clock at night. My husband traveled. I was married at the time. My husband traveled a lot, and I had a great caregiver for my children, but I wanted to be the one to tuck them into bed at night. So that is when I shifted to freelancing, because I could, when they were at school, I could work and write and pitch articles and do those things. And then when they came home, I could be there for them. And that was just really important to me. And that's how I tried to find balance in my life at that time. So I think just that willingness.
Play hockey? You still play hockey, right?
I still play hockey, yes.
And that's passion. That's what I call passion in action. When you have that. A lot of people think that passion is just this one thing that they do. And I tell people, no, passion is the way you live life.
Yes, it's my whole life. It's the only way I know how to live. Yeah. But I will tell you, so I retired from hockey for 20 years. I didn't play. I put all my equipment away because time to grow up, time to be an adult. And then when I got back on the ice, I was just like, oh my God, this is one of the things that's been missing. And then when I got sober and stopped drinking and stopped using alcohol to numb myself, that is when my passion, because even, I was numbing out the bad feelings, like, yeah. But I was also numbing out all the good things. And I think that whether it's alcohol, drugs, shopping, Netflix, whatever you're sort of addicted to and binging, that is just numbing your passion for life. Like, I look back and I'm like, and things were okay when I was drinking, I was doing all the things. I was volunteering. My kids got everywhere on time. I was, bringing cupcakes to the bake sale. I was doing all like the things, but I just was numb and empty inside. And then when I stopped drinking, I remembered kind of who I was and what I loved and the things that I want to accomplish in my life. So why am I sitting around on my couch drinking a bottle of wine?
Do you have other women or men too?
I usually work just mainly with women.
Okay. And you help them rediscover the real self by taking away whatever that addiction part is. And in your case, alcohol. And so you focus on that. What's been the most rewarding part of this new journey for you in coaching others, and being sober?
Oh gosh, the most rewarding part, I think, is helping and just seeing my clients realize how strong they are. Because I think sometimes, and the women that I work with, I don't work with hardcore addiction. I think that there's so much misunderstanding of sobriety and alcohol and addiction. I work with women who, maybe have 2 or 3 glasses of wine every night. They're relaxing on their couch or whatever they are, but they're really covering up parts of themselves. And a lot of them do feel that emptiness inside. They've lost their way. They're not sure anymore maybe their relationship is empty. They don't know who they are. And helping them sort of strip away that crutch they've been leaning on and finding their strength and their beauty and their brilliance, and just seeing them really shine like that, that to me is just so, that breaks my heart wide open, and just I'm here for all of it. So that's the most rewarding thing, the work that I do, because I don't think that we realize, what alcohol does to our bodies or our minds or anything, or the way we relate to ourselves and others. And so many, it just, you lose that connection with yourself, first of all. And that's, if you're not connected to yourself, you're really not connected to anything else in your life. Your passion, definitely not connected to your passion.
That's profound. That's really profound. If you're not connected to yourself, you're not connected to other things in life. That's profound. Now let's talk about that word passion. What does it mean to you, and how do you define passion?
Passion, I think to me, passion's that thing you just don't stop striving for. Like you need it almost as much as like oxygen. You need it in your life. It's just that thing that drives you, fuels you. And I think you can be, I am definitely multi-passionate. Sometimes I'm like, God, I wish I didn't have all these things I'm so passionate about, because it can be a little bit much to juggle sometimes. But I think that it's those things.
Morning saying the same thing.
Right?
You're going to do this, and it's just not enough time in the day.
But it definitely makes life more exciting. Like I think about how dull it would be if I didn't have all those interests and those passions and those things that I can't even explain it. It's just something in me that's driving me and propelling me forward.
I love this. I love this. Yeah, I love this. When you look back on your life, and you think of a life lesson that stands out for you, what comes to mind?
A life lesson. One that I learned myself, or one that somebody helped me with, or what do you mean? Anything.
Whatever comes to mind. What's this life lesson that you feel like sharing right now?
A life lesson. Well, I don't know if it's a life lesson, but it's a quote that I always use sort of to filter my life. And it's, you can make progress or you can make perfection, but you can't make both. Or no, sorry, you can make progress or you can make excuses, but you can't make both. And that really, because you can sit around and make excuses, but you're not making progress.
It's similar to what my life coach, Deborah Pullman, would say. She would say, I would say that you can have excuses or success. We can't have both.
Yeah. Right. Because and sometimes it's okay. Sometimes I do let myself off with the excuses for a day or two, because you can't always be, 110 miles an hour, right? Like you sometimes have to just slow down. So sometimes those excuses are like real, or maybe it is an injury, or maybe it is you're just mentally overloaded, you need to peel back. But I do use that as a filter, for most days. Like, am I really tired, or do I have another hour to sit and write? Like which one do I want more? Do I want to get this piece of work that I'm trying to get done out in the world? Do I want to have that finished, or do I want to go sit on the couch? And it's always kind of like that back and forth to find that kind of balance, is like, what do I need and want, and with all the stuff.
So you and I are at what we call this midlife point in life, supposedly, assuming we're living to 100, 106 years old.
Yep.
So when you look at the second half of life, what are you hoping for in the second half?
I am hoping for all the things. I'm super excited. Like I just feel I've never felt more powerful, more confident, more sure of myself. I truly love myself. I'm not supposed to really love myself. I'm 53, I'm divorced, I'm single. I'm supposed to want to do some work on my face or body or something. I'm not supposed to be in love with who I am, but I really, truly do. And that just fuels me and makes me like, I can do anything I want to do. And I think that I've never really been in that position before, where I truly believe in myself. So, I'm excited for all the things. I'm almost an empty nester. My son is going to be a senior in high school next year. And then I don't know, the sky is the limit. I think I don't know where I'm going to be. It'll be sad because it's a different, I'm ending one phase of my life, but it's that excitement of moving into another phase of my life. And then just seeing my children find their passion be fueled by what drives them. Like, that's really cool as a mom to get to see that too. So
I think it's just a wonderful time in life. I really do. My father-in-law used to tell me, and he's 90 now, he's 90, wow. He would tell me, you know, the 50s were the best decade of my life. You know, and at first I was like, I think I was maybe 30 at that point when he told me that. And I'm thinking, 50, boy, that sounds really old. But now that I'm there, I'm like, yeah, this is great. You know, my kids are old enough to have these awesome conversations with. I don't have to pick up after them anymore, or lecture them anymore. Once in a while I do, but it's a new freedom that, you know, midlife reinvention.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, I think.
Well, so wrapping this up, if someone came up to you, you know, and felt like they were really struggling with living their passion and really enjoying life and feeling like they're too old or that the best years of life are over and done with, what would you tell them?
Well, I would say you're never too old to change at all. But I think that one thing that sometimes we don't look at enough in midlife is, I would say, take 30 days and explore your relationship with alcohol. 30 days, stop drinking. And no matter how much you're drinking, because I think that we sometimes in midlife, a lot of times women are the empty nesters, they maybe are changing jobs, and there's alcohol starts to take more of a prominent role. And like, it's a happy hour here and getting to girls' night here. And before you know it, you know, you're drinking 3 or 4 nights a week. And sometimes that can be binge drinking. So taking a 30-day break and just honestly, truthfully seeing if that makes an impact on how you feel mentally, emotionally, physically. Because when I stopped drinking, the clarity that I had, the way I felt stable emotionally, that is what I'd started to become addicted to. I wanted that feeling every day. So, and I think with hormones in midlife, alcohol does not play nicely with those hormones. If you're not getting good sleep, it can sometimes be the alcohol, or it's also interrelated. So if you're not feeling that you're doing all the other things, if you're doing like yoga, meditation, journaling, but you're still feeling icky, stuck, I would just say take 30 days off and see what that looks like. Explore your relationship with alcohol. And I have a really good resource on my website. It's a self-guided 30-day course that just helps you, gives you some questions. It's journaling. It's just getting to know yourself honestly without having like that substance in the way.
Yeah. So if that's you, you know, if Chris is speaking to you by watching this video and you're feeling that way, reach out. You know, the link is below. Grab that 30 days, start a new journey, and see how you feel. And if you need help, of course, connect with Krysty for coaching services. There is nothing more powerful than having somebody who supports you and guides you and challenges you. Because if you want to get to this point in life or on your journey, having a coach with you can get you there quicker than if you do it alone.
Absolutely.
Any last thoughts before we wrap up here?
No, other than just, you know, take things one step at a time, one day at a time. I mean, change, it does not happen overnight. We want it to happen overnight. When we see it on social media, we think it's happening to other people overnight. But it doesn't. It takes time, it takes dedication, it takes just that one step. And some days are great and other days are not so great. And it's that whole roller coaster of life. It's supposed to be that way. So it's supposed to be messy. It's not supposed to be wrapped up in a bow.
That is so true. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 4 back. Yep. And then you can take 6 forward again.
Yep.
10. Yep. Thank you so much for your time here and sharing your journey.
Thank you, Karen.
If you want to connect, the link is below.
Yeah, it was great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.